I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong.
Hey you guys, welcome back to Hounds to Heroes. Today I have Jen and Octavius with me doing their interview. Let's learn a little bit about them, shall we? So today we have Jen and her service dog Octavius with us. Jen is a Coast Guard veteran and uses her experience to inform and educate the community on sexual assault and harassment in the armed services. The importance of having a psychiatric service dog, not only to cope but also to recover from these events. At the first glance, Jen and Octavius definitely define the precipitation of what a service team looks like. Octavius is a husky Malamute mix, and Jen is a responsible small builder that takes on the world one interaction at a time. Octavius' content on TikTok and Instagram shares his exclusive training experience and 88 guidelines for reference. This content is also shared with beautiful moments that the service animals provide for the handler, because without him, Jen would not have the strength, not only the advocacy for herself, but also hundreds of men and women who silently suffer from physical, emotional abuse in the service. Octavius wears the patch in the center of his vest that says not all disabilities are invisible, which a daily reminder that service dogs team come in all shapes and sizes. Octavius also has 3,185 followers on TikTok as well. Let's get started in this interview, shall we?
Is a lot of people say that psychiatric service dogs is just another form of ESAs, and what do you say to that?
I think, of course, we educate. Education, I think, is the most important, and the difference between the two, of course, one's task-based and one's not task-based, but of course, the tasks are very extensive. The amount of training that Octavius went through to, become a service dog is, the training hours that we went through, I logged it, and it came to the point where the training was so extensive that I just lost track of how many hours in the, span of years that we've been training together. So I think to say that they are one of the same is a disservice, no pun intended, but it's a disservice to the amount of work that goes into training a service dog, and not even just the initial training, but like the full-fledged maintaining his training, because it's not a one and done thing. Like, you constantly have to make sure that, his skills are refined. And just like we do, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's very constant. And so I would encourage people to kind of remember that it's a very distinct and deliberate practice between emotional support animals and service animals.
Right. And I tell people that all the time, because not only is my service dog for seizure alert, he is also a PTSD service dog as well. So I like to remind people that just because I do have a mental disability does not mean he's not any less of a service dog than a mobility service dog or anything like that. The question number 2 for you is have you ever had a dog? Wait a minute. So have your dog from a program?
Absolutely. So Octavius was trained with an organization called Canine Caring Angels. They're based out of Virginia, and they are an amazing organization, veteran owned and fostered. But the premise of a lot of what they believe is that your dog that you have at home is going to have such a strong and just powerful rapport with you that being assigned a dog is like, you can't really equate the two. So their mantra is to bring a service dog from home, like your home dog, to become a service dog, but it kind of hybrids the intensive training. And what we went through was he went with them for a couple of weeks, did one-on-one training with the trainers, and they were absolutely phenomenal. He came back completely different dog. Like, he is a husky Malamute mix, and I was in disbelief with how just incredibly just structured and tame he was, because he was wild when they took him. But we had already created that bond, and the reason we thought he would serve as a good service dog is because he was already demonstrating those kind of cues of the task-based response of service dogs. The second part, and the kind of the beauty of this hybrid program is, in addition to training him one-on-one with the trainer, they also trained me on how, like, what that dynamic looks like. So they said, okay, one of the most important parts about psychiatric service is that it's psychiatric. There's things mentally that they can't replicate because everyone handles emotion differently. So the best that they could do is be alongside with me as things were occurring. And they would say, okay, this is how you prompt him to do this task, this task, this task, and this, which was really beautiful. It was very sincere, and it felt like I was their only client at the time. Like, I know that they had multiple, but they just were so genuine and making sure that I understood and he understood what the job was and how we could work together to have a very synchronized relationship. So.
And that's really cool. So, would you ever think about when Octavius decides when he is time to retire and everything else like that? Would you go back to the program, or would you just get your own dog and train him by yourself since they taught you so much?
That's a good question. I have I have a hard time thinking about the day he retires. He's my battle. He really is with me a lot. So I honestly have not thought about what comes next. I probably will, communicate with them saying, hey, Octavius is, living his best life in retirement, and how can I go about it? But at the same time, like, it's very much going to be we'll see what happens when we get there, because I just don't know. Right now my life is with Octavius,
which is understandable, because at least for me, I like to think of my dog as like the extender of me because of how much time and training and everything we've been through, and all my medical episodes and everything else. And thinking about retiring him is a sore subject, and I don't know what I would do next either, so I can understand. So have you ever been denied access anywhere where you live, and if so, what has happened?
So this is pretty unfortunate. I was denied entry to a public place, and it was, so full transparency, a lot of psychiatric service. I am a veteran, and even though I may not look physically disabled, there's a lot of rehabilitation that's occurring behind the scenes, and I don't really need to or have to kind of publicize that for people. I have my psychiatric service dog to help me in that recovery. But unfortunately, because of that dynamic and because of the appearance, you have a husky and, a female who may or may not look like a veteran based on what people's perceptions are. I was denied entry into a place that seemed relatively safe. And we kind of go into it into our TikTok. We have a brief story, but essentially, I do not go places after dark. It's not a good environment. It's not the best. So, in a moment of courage, I was like, okay, I want to be social. I want to try to be outside of this shell or this place of isolation that has occurred because of my events. And they said, no, you can't bring him in here because he's just a dog. And I was like, he's not a dog. He is my service dog, and he is specifically trained for this moment in particular, where I know that I'm putting myself in a very vulnerable state, and I'm trying to muster up all the courage possible. But in the event that I do need help or I go into a very severe panic attack, he's there to help me. That is his job. And they vehemently was, no, absolutely not. I followed up. I said, okay. They said, take it up with our manager. I said, all right. Did that the following day, and it proceeded to be a sequence of emails saying, hey, just reiterating that we were denied entry, and that's not allowed. And so they were like, too bad. And we then tried to pursue, and this is the part that was the most frustrating, is we tried to pursue this through many advocate routes as we could. And we went through the VA, we went through ADA, we went through all these different things. ADA came back and was like, our process is overwhelmed, and by the time we get to your inquiry, it's going to be, it's going to be an extended period of time, and we just can't address that. I was like, all right. And they said, take it up civilly. And I was like, well, so we are still currently in the process, without diving into too much information about it. We're still in the process legally about getting, to right a wrong, essentially, because they have yet to like fully acknowledge or apologize, for that matter, for denying entry to that place. It was very embarrassing. It was very heartbreaking. But I think a lot of that has to do with just people being fairly uneducated about what the actual ADA guidance and rules are, and what establishments are supposed to say when they're, there's a right way to question service animals, but that was not.
Agreed. Dallas, stop it. I agree, because I've had the same instance where like people denied me access with my service dog because he's a lab pit and they see mostly pit and they're like, there's no way that could be a service dog. Like, there's no way.
Right.
And I'm like, he is. Like, if I don't go with him, like, it could be really bad result for me. Like, I could have a seizure and everything else so many times, and it's gut wrenching every single time that it happens, because it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't go out and eat a meal with my family with my medical equipment that I need to have with me. Like, it's like somebody with a wheelchair and an oxygen tank. Like, I need that. Like, I have no, like, if I had the choice of leaving my dog at home, I think majority of us in the disabled community would do it. Like, if we wanted to, like, we would, because it is more of at least for me, it's more of a hassle to bring him anywhere than it is anything.
And I think, and I know that's one of your questions later on, but like, I think one of the most surprising things that I've learned since having a service dog, and he is my first service dog. I got out of the service, started the whole process with the VA and all that nonsense. So I was very surprised of like the logistics behind having a service dog is just unimaginably complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Having his vest, having his, like, for him, he sheds like crazy. So like making sure he's groomed well so that he's not shedding and like making a mess, and being cognitive of like where we're going and is he going to leave a mess, and like not a mess like he's being rowdy, but he's just like, he has fur, he sheds. It's like just no reason, like my hair sheds. It's natural.
Right.
But there's definitely considerations like that I never in a million years like thought that it would be something that I'm like heavily thinking about. So.
Oh, agreed. Both of you, will you two stop it? Oh my lord, you two want attention so bad today. So my next question is I don't know how much involved you are with the service dog community, but we are considered a very toxic community for a reason. And how do you think, in your own personal way, that we can do better as service dog handlers, being in the community and helping other service dog handlers out?
I think trying to educate, and I admittedly have a little bit of trouble with this because I get defensive. I think when you feel the need that you have to defend yourself, you in turn become defensive. And then when you're defensive, naturally the people on the receiving end are like, oh shit, like that. Don't like that. But when I've approached it to be like, hey, have you considered, X, Y, and Z, are really trying to educate, like, calmly, or even just ask questions like, what makes, like, how do you understand the difference between a service dog and an emotional support? Like, how well tasked? Like, if you start prompting questions and having that conversation with people, it really makes them like sit and think about, I didn't even really think about that. And I think having more of a dialogue in that sense, instead of me trying to defend myself. Because if I try to defend myself, that's when it gets, like, all bets are off, because then my emotions start flooding in, I get defensive, and I feel very disenfranchised. Whereas maybe someone is either saying that out of ignorance, and in which that case, education and being like, okay, instead of just spitting the ADA regulation at you, like, help me help you understand what you're not getting about this. Like, how do you not understand that this is a protected class? And how do you not understand that there's extensive training and deliberate action that goes into this, more so than the average pup, So that's the only thing I can offer, is like matching the energy that you put out is the energy that you'll receive, essentially. So if you put out, defensive, very hostile energy, then, and I've seen really awesome content creators on TikTok, like really have those conversations to teach people, and it's been well. Like, people are like, oh, okay. People who are stubborn will always be stubborn, and they'll have their thought process. But as long as you know in your heart that you've made an effort to educate, then really, that's the best you can do. At the end of the day, the service dog is for you, not for others.
True.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that too, because for me, I don't post my service dog on TikTok anymore because of the fear of people calling my dog a fake for some reason because he did a task wrong or something, or not as good as their dog would have done it. It's so much real for me that I just refuse to post him. But I do have it under Leo the service dog, and I do post stuff like this now where I'm like, hey, I'm talking with other service dog handlers. I do have a service dog. I do try to educate people, and I'm trying to get enough following to where I can go live to educate people more, to help out service dog handlers like myself and you and everything else. And just having the fear behind me of, should I post my dog? Should I show my dog? Should I do this? Because somebody's going to say something about this, is so real for me. And it's sad.
Yeah, I very much, I hesitated to make Octavius's account, but I started getting so many questions of, how did you train him? Who did you go through? What is he trained in? Like, the same questions over and over again. So you'll see on some of his videos, he has a QR code patch on his service vest, and the QR code is his TikTok. So I'm like, if you have questions, here is a whole series of videos telling you about how we did it and, going through the process. So.
Which, that is awesome, actually. And I think that's so funny that he has his own QR code. That's so funny. So my next question is, have you dealt with fakes before, and what has happened? And has there anything like severe that's happened, like an attack or anything?
Yes, unfortunately. Actually, at the airport is where it happens the most. Out in public, it's hard, mostly because I just kind of stay away from people. Like, it's hard to interact with other service dogs or fake service dogs if you don't interact with them.
Right.
I sound so antisocial right now, but
no, you're valid, because I've had other service dog handlers on here say that we don't take the time. If we see another dog, like, I've seen fake service dogs, but I won't take the time to even look at one or anything.
Yeah, I won't like intentionally subject myself to that, knowing that it could go awry. But the worst ones have been at the airport for sure. And I've had a service animal. There's no way he was, because his handler, his owner, was sitting at the gate waiting, and he like broke loose from his leash or whatever, and he just bolted right at Octavius. And we were, getting to our gate, and it scared me so bad. And little dog is like, "Rah!" And Octavius, being, obviously, this has happened more than once, so he just kind of looks at this little thing, and Octavius is 80 pounds, so like, he just kind of looks at this little thing, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Like all big dogs do.
Yeah. And the lady just comes running up. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And the first thing I saw was a huge service dog patch on this tiny dog. And I was like, I just looked at her dead in the eye, and I was like, "Is that a service dog?" And I just like, it's a yes or no question. I'm not asking you to extrapolate. I'm just like, is that a service dog? I see the patch, but I'm going to ask you directly, dead in the face. And she looked at me. She kind of like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." Meanwhile, the dog's like going crazy, like, and I'm like, "All right, get your dog." And, she got the dog, but everyone around us, because it was a big airport. It was a big scene, because Octavia, and then people were like, "Oh, your dog did so well." And I'm like, "He's a service dog." Like, yes, he is trained for that. He's trained to handle stressful situations. So,
Right.
barring,
And that's so sad. that we have to
Yeah.
have our dogs trained for that scenario where dogs can come up and attack them per se. Because it not only do veterans like yourself go through traumatic events to where you have PTSD and you have your medical conditions, you have to train your dog to deal with that as well. And it's like we shouldn't have our medical equipment have to deal with traumatic events like we did. We're trying to get better with them helping us. And now we have to help them get better while they help us. It's like a cycle, and it's like it's not fair.
Yeah, and I definitely have seen Octavius's demeanor change a lot towards like unleashed dogs that like run up at him. Like he very much has changed his demeanor. Not in an aggressive anything, but he's just like, I need to just not be like, just get away from me.
Right.
um,
I get that. My dog was the same way. He got attacked, and he does not mess with any of the dogs besides my ESA, the big dog that you just saw, and that's Dallas. He'll only play with him. He only mess with him. Any other dog he sees, he's very standoffish. He tends to take his own space and don't like any dogs near him after that incident. And I understand completely because who wants to get attacked and then attacked again?
right.
So my next question is people say that program dogs are better than owner trained dogs and we should all go through programs. What do you have an opinion on that, or what do you say to that?
So my opinion, and it might be in the minority, only in the sense of like how you train your dog, whether it's program or owner, that to me doesn't matter. As long as your dog is trained to a standard and you're able to meet that, like stay within that standard, like I think that's really the only thing that matters, because everybody, like I was only fortunate enough that the organization took us in and they trained him for free. Like that to me, that saved my life. And I was in such a bad place before that. And I spoke to the owner, and she really, like the program director, and she really like looked in my soul and was like, we want to help you. I can see that you need help. And they took him in. But I understand that the cost of training a service dog is immense, and it's just some people cannot afford that. And it shouldn't be considered a luxury. So you should be able, if you have the time, the know-how, the discipline to teach them, then you should absolutely be able to teach them. It's within your right to take care of what you need to take care of. The only thing that I wish is that, I would hope is that we're all training within the same standard, that there is a set, because the ADA guidance is like, they need to be trained in this criteria, but like, there's nothing qualifying that. And the only thing closest that I can think of is like the Canine Good Citizen test, and even that's not even like a sanctioned thing for service dogs. It's just like a Canine Good Citizen test. Like it's very generic. Any dog technically can do that.
Right.
So it's kind of a long answer, but the bottom line is I wish there was just a standard that we all had to meet regardless of the way we get there. You just have to get there.
Right.
So.
And that's understandable too, because you don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and they just do the bare minimum of owner training, and then their dogs doesn't end up being like right like your dog or anything else like that. And that's completely understandable too.
Yeah.
My cat is going crazy right now. So my next question is sorry. Have you ever had an issue where people has come up and pet your dog without permission, or have done something to your dog without permission, and you're just kind of like, please don't?
It happens quite a bit. Funny enough, it happens more with like older generations than it does with like kids or younger generations. Like it's so bizarre how like kids are like, oh, look, a dog. And of course they get so excited. And like, thankfully the parents are like, that's a service dog. Like, don't go and grab it. Like, and we don't have issues with kids. We have issues with the old, like much older people who kind of like dismiss the fact that he is a service dog, or that he's my service dog. Or a lot of people assume that I'm the trainer. and that I'm training him to be a service dog, and to which they are like, "Oh, he's so cute," and I'm like, "No, he's my service dog. Like, please don't play with him right now. Like, he's trying to focus."
Right.
But I do have, so one of the things that I did teach him to help delineate of like, hey, it's okay to get pets versus, hey, you're working. We taught him break, the command break, and essentially it's heel and break. So heel, of course, is like he is, following me to a T. But when I tell him break, he literally is free to, do what he wants to do and enjoy the pets and cuddles. Like he's a big fluky dog. And so
Right.
as long as I give both of us the time and the space to delineate when it's okay to break away, I'm okay with letting people pet him. It's just that I have to let people know, hey, it's okay if you pet my dog, but let me like take him out of work mode essentially, before I start, doing that. So
Which
yeah.
is just a respectful thing, because the other day when I was in a live, this older guy was talking about how we should allow our dogs to be like, it's just a dog. It needs to be pet. Like dogs out there love to be pet. And we're like, working dogs, we try not to get them distracted. And if you go up and pet a random dog that you don't know if it's well trained or not. It can bite you, and most dogs don't want to be pet by random people. Like it's just like somebody coming up and saying, "Oh, you're a good human." Yes, you are. Like you ain't gonna like that either.
No, no, people do that, and that's a problem.
Just because it's a dog doesn't mean it likes it just as much as you.
Yeah.
So my next question is what is your favorite task that your dog does for you?
So he's trained in a series of things. Like block is one where he, like, if somebody's getting very or getting too comfortable with me in the sense of like distance, he does block, and I have to be very tactful about it, because I can't just, like, if someone's up to me and I'm like block, 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 like they're gonna be like, what the
Right.
going on? So it's kind of funny that we have learned how to communicate now with just hand signals, like very like, it's very low key, so it doesn't make a scene, but he still does what he needs to do. So he'll interject himself like right there in the dead middle and create that very like natural boundary. And then one other thing that I really love is he does deep pressure therapy. So I tell him the command pressure, and I have my hand signal, which to me, whenever you have an anxiety attack, for me, like it feels like you're gonna die, like the palpitations and everything. So I equated the command like help with pressure, and he now like basically does deep pressure therapy. But yeah, those are my two favorite ones that he does. Mostly with block, because it's kind of like we're in secret code and we're just like, hey, get this person away from me. And
I
he's
get
just like,
that.
yeah, it's very impressive.
I love it when handlers get so acquainted with their service dogs that they can just literally just do a hand motion, and the dog knows exactly what to do, when to do it, just by the hand motion. And to me, that's the most adorablest and funnest thing to do, because my dog, we have the same bond, so I can literally just say like do like one of his like a block like you, and just do it by hand as well, and he'll just automatically, or just if somebody's coming up and standing like close, he'll just automatically do it without me even doing a motion. And it's quite fun, and also you're like wow at the same time, because you're like, how long it took you to train to do that, like wow.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I have my two kitty cats right here. They're just chilling. Octavius is out. He is living his best life in the cold. This time of year, he as soon as he's off work, he goes outside and he's just like, I want to stay here. And I'm like, okay, buddy, just
do you, man? Do you? So my next question is what is the worst thing about having a service dog?
I think the assumptions, like, I think you're essentially letting people know that you're disabled in some capacity. And that, to me, it was very hard to adjust because whether I liked it or not, I was going to have those conversations with people explaining that, yes, I'm a disabled veteran. Yes, I have PTSD. Yes, he is my service dog. And like, that is not always an easy conversation, especially with people who are very, I wouldn't say they're intentionally combative, but it ends up becoming very like combative, or it makes it feel like you're on trial, like they're doubting you. And that's probably the worst feeling in the world, because like, you're just trying to get help, the help that you need, and for you to be questioned for the help that you need is pretty disheartening.
Oh, 100%. Because I feel like the people that have invisible disabilities are taken less seriously than majority of the people who have mobility issues, are in a wheelchair, or are blind, and you can see that they're blind and everything else like that. And it's very hard for us to get somewhat of people being like, oh, that is real. I understand that. And that's okay that you need help, and take us seriously than majority of the other disabled community.
Yeah.
So my final question for you tonight is what does having a service dog mean to you?
It means my life. Like I said, he changed my life. I was in such a state that was very scary for me. I didn't feel like I was going to recover from it. I didn't tell anybody about what I was dealing with. I was in a state of isolation and scared of becoming a statistic as a veteran. And if it wasn't for Octavius, and if it wasn't for his training and the new life that he gave me a sense of confidence and security that I don't think any doctor, the fact that he is with me all the time, he sees me in my highest of highs and lowest of lows, and he's there for me. So really, he is my life. And that's part of why I have a hard time. Like, I don't want to think about the day that I can't. Wow, I'm so sorry. I can't think about the day that we can't be a team again, because he'll always be, my hero. He really was. He really is. And I don't know if people really appreciate what that means. And that is a big sticking point with the service dog, and the fact that he goes to work with me, he goes to the grocery store with me. He is at the hip, 1,000%. And I'm very, very grateful. I'm very blessed for him and the organization that helped me. I really love what you're doing. I saw your videos and I was like, absolutely, I'm honored to be a part of this and to, share a story. I mean, I share a lot of videos of Octavius. I'm kind of behind the scenes, but to be our voice together, it means a lot. So I thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I thank you so much for being a part of this and taking the time out of your day to answer some questions and letting us get to know you as well.
Thanks. Happy to help.
So if you guys haven't already, go follow Octavius on TikTok. I forgot my train of thought there. On TikTok.
Okay, it's a dream, and I pray as a team one day it'd be me. If